Perfect. I'd like to call the September 24th, 2025 meeting of the Bay City Planning Commission to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you and good evening. We have a quorum present. Would like to make the record reflect. We have Timothy Beckman, Ashley Meyer, Sheila Turbot, Michael Burns, myself, Douglas Rise, present. Terry Multane and Lisa Griffiths from planning staff are here, as well as some other city staff that, do I need to give them credit? No, Shelley doesn't want it, so. First item on the agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from August 23rd. What is your pleasure?
I move the minutes be approved.
Second.
I have a motion and second for approval of the 20th, 2025 meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item on the agenda, public comments. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any item not on our agenda for this evening, please come to the podium, sign in on our register, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes for your comments. Seeing no one step forward, we will move on with new business. We have 2 items on tonight's agenda. Site plan reviews for OmniFiber LLC, as well as a zoning ordinance amendment review. We will begin with the OmniFiber LLC is proposing installation of above-ground fiber optic cabinets in the 2nd Ward located within city-owned right-of-way. They are specifically case SPR 25-05 for 888 Center, case SPR 25-06 for 1104 McKinley Avenue, case SPR 2507, 1498 6th Street, SPR 2510 for 2025 7th Street, and case SPR 2512 for 616 McKinley Avenue. Last month we combined, what did we have, 8 last month, Terry, I think? We combined those all into one motion, although we did specifically refer to each one separately. I'm somewhat hesitant to propose that tonight because we do have the Historic District Commission comments that were included in our packet, and I think they are germane and should be addressed for those locations separately. So that being the case, we only have 2 that are not in the Historic District out of the 5, so I would propose that we combine those 2, but that we take them in order since they are all consecutive. So the first case would be SPR 25-05 for 888 Center Avenue. Staff report would be first.
Yeah, Doug, if I could correct you, I believe, well, all 5 of them are actually in the Historic District, because these were the last 5 cases that we did have to bring to the Historic District Commission. So all 5 of them are in the district.
Pardon me, I read the material and didn't see comments regarding the other 2, so I made an assumption. And I guess you know what they say about making assumptions. In that case, we'll handle them all individually. Again, first case will be SPR 25-05 for 888 Center Avenue.
All right. A representative here, so I know there was a little bit of delay trying to get the connection made with his team, but are you all set on that? Oh, he's almost there, he says. So on this first one, the 888 Center Avenue, this one is located at a MDOT right-of-way, so their comment is incorporated into the report, which basically stated that they preferred the cabinet be located behind the sidewalk or not at all within the right-of-way. And then as a reminder, there is the MDOT permitting process, and he makes the comment that he'll address that at that time, but that is the one comment received on this. And then I guess a little bit of an explanation on the historic district information that was included. So what I included was the email, or not email, but the memo that I had prepared to send to the Historic District Commission, kind of explaining what the utility ordinance was and their role. Then we had the meeting, and then there was a lot of discussion with regard to not only just the zoning ordinance or the utility cabinet. Uh-oh. Right. The utility cabinet. Try it again. No, we're getting echo.
Shelley, you're fired.
Yeah. She didn't want the role of IT. It's got to be a way there. Okay. Nope, it's still connecting me. It's still connecting me? All right, I'm fine now. All right, what was I saying? Oh, so with the Historic District Commission, I had the memo that I had sent to the Historic District Commission members prior to the meeting. Then from that meeting, there was a discussion about having a city attorney take a look at it. I met with them the following day after our planning, or the Historic District Commission meeting, and had that meeting with him, and then he prepared the memo. It looks like, he didn't do a deep dive into, providing all the parameters of that ordinance or the historic preservation. As you may have read in the meeting minutes, there was going to be a call made to the State Historic Preservation Office. I did call them. Unfortunately, we've been playing phone tag, and tomorrow I have a time specifically that I'm going to be able to talk to her. I left a detailed message explaining that, we're dealing with utility cabinets in the right-of-way, and what, if any, experience does SHPO have working with their other community certified local government historic districts. So I'm sorry I don't have that answer for tonight. She didn't really allude to if what information she may have about those. So what the city attorney prepared a memo on is just taking a close look at that ordinance itself, and then there is an example that he had shown from the city of Vassar, where in their historic preservation ordinance, which in our ordinance it's chapter 64, possibly in the future having an amendment to that to deal with items more specifically that may be in the right-of-way or in the neighborhood or, just in the general area. But for right now, the ordinance is referring to a structure as the resource, and then it kind of takes a following from that standpoint. It didn't really address anything outside of the private property that, typically the Historic District Commission is evaluating. So I'll give Josh an opportunity to see if he can comment about this particular cabinet. I do know there's been some question about the size of the cabinets, and at previous meetings or even at the Historic District Commission meeting, the cabinets in their size, their dimension do meet the ordinance as far as size, because our ordinance allows up to a 66-foot or 66-inch cabinet. I do have, if needed, some information on the slide, or some slides that represent different cabinets. If Josh needs to pull that up, I did make that available too. So with
Terry,
that,
before we get into this specific one, I have a more general question about all these. In the conversations with the Historic Commission, a number of suggested, well, maybe move it around the corner and stuff. So I'd like to know what the criteria and the importance of each location of these. What was the criteria used to pick these locations, and how necessary it is that they be in this location from the representative of the company?
Yep, just go right ahead. Oops, I guess this one you got to hold.
So this cabinet here,
Here, I'll hold that.
can I share my screen?
How does he share the screen?
I got it.
Top right next to the red button.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Byrne, with your question, I do not have that answer on why this particular cabinet's placed right here. This is, the way our fiber runs, it runs into the cabinet. And
Sorry, can you talk really close to, like obnoxiously close to your microphone? I'm deaf and I can't hear anything
I
you're saying.
apologize. Okay, so the cabinet is basically set in this location because all of the maps, they connect. And yeah, I don't really have that answer.
You say all of the maps?
Yes.
For the fiber optics? I mean, that's what I'm asking is, could it be moved anywhere else? Or does it have to be
It
in?
could be moved, yes.
So potentially, to piggyback off what Michael is saying, around that corner, if you're looking at the building that it's proposed to be in front of, it could hypothetically maybe shift around the corner down a little bit, you know, obviously to stay away from the street, but, you know, or, you know what I mean, the intersection.
Yes.
But it hypothetically could round the corner.
That could, yes, or if this is a historic building and it just, you guys do not want it there, absolutely, we can move it down the road to a better location.
As being a part of those discussions, I can tell you that was it was a major concern. We were very concerned because it's a very large cabinet, you know, it's
Yes.
not little. And it is a historic resource. It's a very old building, apartment building. And I know that MDOT, you know, they made their comment that they'd review the location if it was applied, but said not at all within the, you know, prefer the cabinet to be located behind the sidewalk, which would be on private property, or not at all within the right-of-way. So my guess, and this is just a guess, is that that would probably make both happier if it was around the corner. Just a thought.
Where it is currently proposed to be at, could it go right here?
and you're kind of back at the same problem. If you're going along Center Avenue, you're kind of back at the same thing. But if you round it onto Van Buren,
Yeah.
which is that side street that runs perpendicular to Center,
Okay,
it would be,
North Van
So
Buren.
Van Buren.
okay, yep, I see it now. Yes, that should be no problem.
I would anticipate, I'd have to, talk to other humans, but I would anticipate that the HDC would probably be happy with that. And I can't speak for MDOT, but that resolves any concern I had.
Question to staff. Does MDOT have permit granting responsibility in this regard?
Yes, they do. Yep, so they would have to apply to MDOT, go through their permitting procedure.
So we already know what MDOT's preferred position is on this.
Right.
Do we have any feel for whether they would approve this location if we approved it?
Well, it sounds like this one could be moved. So that would satisfy MDOT. And if, it could be moved or requested to be on North Van Buren or South Van Buren there, yeah.
Well, it ceases to be on a highway at that point. Once it's on Van Buren, it's a city street.
Right.
So MDOT wouldn't even have authority at that point if it was far enough away from the right
Yeah,
of way.
exactly. Once the
Correct.
right-of-way of MDOT was out, then it would be a city permit.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Bonacek has joined us at 6:49.
All right.
Are we not going to have the same discussion for a lot of these?
So the HDC, as far as if that's what we're specifically talking about, we were trying not to be unreasonable and say you can't put them in the historic district. That's crazy. There was talk of could you put them underground? I assumed that would be much more costly, that the company probably would prefer not to do that. So our kind of middle ground was just keeping it off the major thoroughfares. So McKinley was kind of the same thing where it's that's a main drag. It'd be nice not to do that. But Center was really, because that's where most of the historic resources are. The most notable. That was the main focus. But as far as Van Buren and the other side streets, the district is so large, it ceases to be a reasonable request at some point. You know what I'm saying? Because the district is expanded and is now occupies a huge chunk of the city. So I don't think it would even be feasible to request that.
And
That's why we kind of streamlined it.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said that's why we kind of just streamlined it to, certain major roads.
And I know the landscaping was discussed, or the screening, but they had decided as a body that that would just pose additional burdens and problems. So landscaping or screening around those cabinets was not recommended.
I want to commend the Historic Commission for they had quite a lively conversation about this as reflected in their minutes. So it was something that they gave a lot of attention to, and I do appreciate that.
Question for staff.
Go ahead.
So if we say approve it, but move it around the corner, we can't really do that. We won't see a layout, right? So my question is how are we going to address these if we think it would be beneficial if they were relocated?
Well, let me ask, how much time before these cabinets get installed? Are you waiting on us to get these approvals to do the installation, or how much time do I have? Yep,
You guys got me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Make sure it was on the agenda for this evening. This one that we're talking about, possibly moving around the side there, it would meet all the same setbacks evening. But I mean, to me, I think it's the same property owners, and really nothing else would change. If we have no issues with that property, then, as long as we're abiding by all your rules, Terry sees it, signs off on that, would there be a reason that we couldn't just pass it tonight along all those same guidelines?
Can you, someone who actually heard that, just summarize what he said, because I couldn't hear any of that, sorry.
Okay, we're trying.
All right, Carl.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, many, many times.
All I was saying is that, if we do choose to move it around the side there, that, with it being the same property owner there, I don't think you would have to notify anybody else at this point. So if you guys would just approve that, I could redo the plans, give it to Terry, to still have his final, signature on that print for that cabinet location, with it being in mind that we're gonna, meet all the setbacks and everything set by you guys. So it'd be the same thing, except, essentially ask for your approval this afternoon, because it is in our next, these cabinet locations are part of our next part of the build here. So I really don't want to wait a whole nother month. It'll put us behind in our build plan.
All right.
Would there be a way that we could potentially not lump them together and then just approve the rest? Or potentially approve the rest, and then they could go ahead with, the other locations?
I'm wondering if we can't do a conditional approval on this, subject to staff review after the fact, condition being removal of,
Just move it around the corner,
Specific
just pending
site.
site plan review or what,
right. Would that work for you, Terry?
Yeah, that would work for me. I can do that. Working with engineering.
Other than that issue, did any commissioners have any other questions or concerns about this specific location on Center Avenue? Does any commissioner have any more questions for the site representative? Dennis?
I'd like to know when their crews are going to stop running into Consumers Energy gas lines. Last 2 days, I've had the smell of rotten eggs around my house. Just poking the bear.
It's marked gas line, to be honest. So crews normally aren't at fault. I know sometimes even exposing utility lines, a shovel does it. So even when you're trying to do the safe way of exposing it, it's not. None of this is perfect. It's underground construction.
If I may, as a civil engineer, I appreciate your quandary.
There are no other questions from the commissioners. Terry, did we have any public comments that were submitted through the mail?
There was one comment received. Let me see where it was from here. It's sitting on my desk. Or is it in there? It should be there. All right, we will get the one public comment for the one location. If you could
Wasn't this one specifically?
remember if it was this one. It had to do with the 6th Street location.
Okay.
So it,
I will open the floor to anyone from the public who wishes to come forward and make comment on this application. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to comment, please come to the podium, state your name, sign our register, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, I think we're at a point where we can have our business discussion on this item. Does any commissioner have any concerns or issues they would like to discuss?
Just for clarification, we're considering this with a move to Van Buren?
I think that's the general consensus of what we've been talking about, yes.
Okay.
And it appears that there's no problem with Omnifiber in terms of that relocation. That's correct,
I
right?
think, just for clarification, because we don't have the best pictures, and I'll admit I didn't drive by, but these two McKinley locations, they don't look like they're really out in front of anybody's house. It looks like one of them's along someone's fence line, and then the other is by a parking lot? Is that what I'm?
We'll be discussing those individually. That's what we agreed to. All right, I would entertain a motion then. Yeah, unfortunately.
I move that case SPR 2505-8 at 888 Center Avenue reapprove on conditions that a mover onto, was it Van Buren? Be examined, and that, let me get to the other. Given that relative to section 34-144 to the code, the proposal is not within 20 feet of a crosswalk. The proposal is not within 30 feet of approach to a stop sign or traffic control signal location at the side of the road within the lawn extension. That it will not pose the cabinet will not block egress from an emergency exit. The proposed cabinet will not interfere with another utility access to be maintained of its facility. Its proposed cabinet is not within 10 feet of intersection or crosswalk or edge of a driveway. The proposed is not within 10 feet of a tree. The proposed cabinet, proposed cabinet is not within 10 feet of a mailbox, United States Postal Service. The proposed cabinet is not within 30 feet of a bus stop. These should all also apply to any move to Van Buren. Also within section 34-145, the cabinet.
sorry.
You want me to continue or no?
Please.
The specification meets the criteria within section 34-145 and relative to the cabinet size, orientation to the street, and other factors. Omni Fiber is obligated to comply with specifications in Section 34-125 as condition of approval of any proposed cabinet. The application does meet the following. At least 14 days before the applicant installs the utility cabinet, the applicant shall give notice of such installation by first-class mail to all property owners that reside on the same street or cross street that are within 100 feet of the proposed utility cabinet location, and it complies. Notice shall be provided to the planning and zoning staff within these 3 days of the mailing. Number 2, upon applicant's complete installation of the utility cabinet and related equipment, fixtures, and appurtenances, the applicant shall provide the city accurate as building drawings of the entire area within 100 feet of the installation utility cabinet. Locations such as built drawings shall include it. The name, address, telephone number, and individual responsible for the content of the drawings, the drawing's date, north arrow, and site location on the map, the drawing scale, no less than 1 inch per 10 feet, lot lines and right-of-way boundaries, including location of any benchmarks or property corners either found on set. The accurate location includes height and depth of the franchise utility cabinet, related equipment, fixtures, and appurtenances, the location and exterior dimension of the neighboring house, garage, or other buildings, driveways, sidewalks, fence, trees, telephone poles, and hydrants, bus stops, play equipment, etc., shall all be on the drawing. Location of all number 3, location of all existing in the right-of-ways applicant agrees to indemnify, defend, or hold harmless a city for any injury that is direct result, in whole or in part, to the franchise's as-built drawings being inaccurate regarding to the location of the franchise utility cabinet, related equipment, fixtures, and appurtenances.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. First one. I will note in the Historic District Commission minutes that they only referred to the 3 locations, the one on Center and the 2 on McKinley, as being of concern to them. So I don't see a reason why we can't go ahead then and combine the other 2 into one motion, if that would meet the pleasure of the board.
Right. My question was just with the McKinley locations.
And we'll talk about McKinley
Yeah,
separately.
but yes, otherwise, yeah.
We'll still have a discussion about both of these next 2 cases then. These will be case number SPR 2506, SPR 2507 for 1498 6th Street and SPR 2510 for 2025 7th Street. Terry, you're up first.
Okay. We skipped over the 2506, the one on McKinley. Okay. So
We'll
now-
do those both separately.
Okay. So 1498 6th Street, I don't believe there was any condition with regard to the moving of that location. And then 2510 is at 2025 7th Street. And judging from the map, there was not any condition on that one from the Historic District Commission. And then last, no, yeah, that is the last.
Yeah, just those 2.
Yep.
Does the applicant have any comment on these two locations?
I'm good with those.
It appears that 1498 6th Street is adjacent to a vacant lot, or at least an undeveloped lot. And 20025 7th is right next to a swimming pool.
Pool in a parking lot? I don't know, there's a car there, so it looked like a parking lot to me.
Yeah, it's not quite a parking lot. It's, you know, that residence parks in the yard there, but there is a privacy fence up alongside there, so you won't see it from the pool.
Any specific questions to the applicant or staff from commissioners? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to come forward and make comment on either the 6th Street or 7th Street locations for Omnifiber's cabinets, utility cabinets? Please step forward. You'll have 5 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, did we have any mailed comments, Terry?
Yes, I did receive a comment on 9/24, which is today. Deb Gatza at 619 North Burney Street. She was concerned about the cabinet obstructing sight to the west when heading north at the intersection by the stop sign on 6th Street. I'll read that again. Obstructing sight to the west when heading north at the intersection by the stop sign on 6th Street. So I guess the question would be, did it meet the setback requirements from intersections? And let me see, which one is that?
So the stop signs are on Burney. There is
That
no
says
stop.
30 feet.
6th Street.
Can you talk into your microphone? I didn't even know you were talking.
I said the stop sign's on Burney, not 6th Street.
Right, I think that's what he's talking about. You're at the stop sign on Burney, looking west on 6th Street, and then having that obstructing your vision. Do we know how far that cabinet is from the intersection?
That's a vacant lot there, and it's all open. There shouldn't be any visibility problems.
We know what the setback is on intersection clearances, Terry?
I don't, unless I can refer to this map that I had up here and try to get to that intersection.
And for the record, it does look like it's already partially blocked by that pole. I mean, what are we talking, another 5-6 inches?
Looking for Burney Street here. Sheridan, 14th. How many pages do I have? Let's see, oh, I don't have their numbers anymore. I don't see that one. Yep, I don't see that one. So I can't answer that myself. There's South Farragut. Those are all near 14th. 14th. Yeah, that's was I going up or down? stuff's going back up. 14, yeah. Nope. CMAP below, they're at, keep going up, okay. That's at 13th and, yeah, that's not it. Yeah. I don't have that sheet. It says I have 42 of them. What was the number that they assigned? Do you know? Yeah. No, but what was their original case number? I think I brought all that stuff with me. And it's just a matter of where did it end up? There it is. Yeah, that's our case numbers.
So for the record, what I asked Dennis was, how wide is a standard telephone pole? He said they're not standard, but between anywhere from 12 to 16 inches. It's an 18-inch cabinet. So we're arguing over a few inches, 6 to 4 inches difference. And it's further back from the pole, too. So you're even further away than that pole. You see what I'm saying?
It should not cause any obstruction at all.
And didn't this already get reviewed, Terry, by someone at a city level for traffic flow?
Not for traffic flow. I mean, the city engineer would be able to, get the permits and review it through that process. But I'm not sure what you're referring to.
So, well, I'm just to say that if that was a concern, that would be more for them to figure out than for us to figure out. I mean, and because it has to go through them anyway for permitting,
Right, that could be addressed at that time.
you know what I'm saying?
Right, which would be part of the pre-award process, so we wouldn't even have to worry about it.
Correct. All right.
Do we have any other discussion from the commissioners regarding this particular location? If not, I would entertain a motion. I think, Terry,
I was gonna, the first one
yes.
has been read.
Right.
What we could do is just copy that same, because it's consistent throughout the findings. So you could just reference that instead of having to read that again.
whole thing again.
Yes.
And we could combine this with 7th Street.
Correct.
So we need to at least have a discussion about the 7th Street location, SPR 25-10. Let's take a look at that real quick if we can. Does staff have any comments to make on this one, Terry?
No, I don't.
Does the applicant have any comments that they would like to make?
I'm good at this time.
Anyone from the public wish to come forward and make comment on SPR 25-10 for 2025 7th Street? Please come to the podium, sign the register, state your name, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing no one step forward, did we have any correspondence on this application, Terry?
No, we did not.
Do we have any discussion we would like to have on this particular application? If not, I would entertain a motion for both 2025 7th Street, SPR 2510, and SPR 2507, 1498 6th Street.
I'll make a motion to approve SPR 2507 and SPR 2510, based on the previously read regulations from section 34-104, 34-145, and the conditions of issuance of a permit.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Are we not including 2506?
Going to go back to that.
Thought we
I
were
would-
including all three.
No, we've got issues on the McKinley Street ones that we need to talk about separately.
We had 6 and 12 left.
I would propose that we combine 2506 and 2512 because they are both on McKinley and they will have like situations involved. And if that sounds reasonable,
Sure does. Well, I guess it would depend if there was any objection from Omni Fiber about potentially moving those cabinets. Is that also still an option for one, for both?
well, we're going to talk about them both separately, even though we're going to combine them into one motion. But, because we can deal with conditions on each location within that motion.
Yeah, I mean, I just assumed that the issue was the same for both, but that's okay.
So let's talk about 2506, 1104 McKinley first. Terry.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any specific comment that I could make on that location that's not already represented in the staff report, except for, again, this was on more of a major thoroughfare in the historic district, McKinley. So there was a request to see if this one could be moved to a side street location, which would either be North Farragut or North Sherman.
Does Omnifiber have any response to that possible relocation around the corner to a side street?
Yep, I would be fine with moving it over to North Farragut. It would be on the east side of Farragut, so say it would surround the same property again. They have a fence around their whole yard there, so it would still be kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good, because then it wouldn't be in front of another resource, because we're still in the district.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so we can make that a condition on the approval. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to come forward and speak on case SPR 25-06 for 1104 McKinley Avenue? Please come forward, sign the register, state your name, you'll have 5 minutes. Dramatic pause, no one stepping forward. Terry, did we have any correspondence on this application?
No, we did not.
Okay, so then let's talk about SPR 2512 for 616 McKinley before we enter a motion. Terry?
Yeah, this one would be located on a portion of a one-way, because once you go past Madison and as you're continuing west or east, I'm sorry.
Just one block though, right?
Yeah, just that one block is considered a one-way on that. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's the only unique thing about that. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, that would be Good Samaritan there. I thought they had some screening. I do believe they have some of their own screening in their parking lot there, I know. So I guess I don't have anything specific that would prevent that location other than trying to move it. Well, where would you move it?
Yeah, that seems
Josh, I
to
can't hear anything.
You said he can't hear anything. Can you hear us now? Right. Okay. Can you hear us now?
Yep.
Okay. So could you repeat that question, Ashley?
Oh, no, I was just saying that I kind of was stumped myself on where you would move that. That's kind of right when you lose the lane coming in off the bridge. And so if you were to go around the closest corner, you're now on Madison, which is another major road, you know, and you're pretty far from the corner. So I guess I would be curious to hear from them if you could even go that far, you know, because you'd be going all the way down the block and around the corner. You know what I'm saying?
I would honestly rather not move this one. If anything, I would keep it in the same parking lot, but move it over on North Madison there on the east side of the road.
Well, that's a state highway, so we're going to get back to that same problem that we had on Center Avenue, which would be that MDOT would rather it not be.
My personal thought on this one is, with its current location, we're not worried about it being in front of anyone's home, anything like that. It's kind of off to the side, out of the way. And you're not, I mean, yes, it's within the bounds of that expanded historic district, but I think that that's an area that I don't see an issue with it being myself.
Yeah, there's not a lot of resources. You're in front of a commercial building right there and parking lot. You know, there is a house on the other side of the street, but you're not really blocking a historic resource. I mean, yeah, generally, we didn't want to do them on those large thoroughfares, but you're not really even you're still in that commercial part of town. You haven't even really started that. So, I mean, I'd say this is probably you know, I can't speak for everyone else on the committee, but my personal opinion would be this is probably the lesser of evils. I mean, as far as where else you could put it, it's probably acceptable, in my opinion.
I did have one issue with the location close to that tree. I think we're within 10 feet. And on the chart on the following page, it was indicated as no. So,
Okay, we will look into that closer then, if you do believe it's less than.
Yeah, maybe if it slid down past that other tree, maybe there's a large stretch there. I don't know.
there may be enough room in between those two trees.
Yeah, really anywhere along that north side of that parking lot would be absolutely fine. So if we need to just move it down a little bit more, 10 feet, 20 feet, that's perfectly, we can work with you on that, no problem.
Do you have any other questions for the applicant? Yeah, or staff, excuse me.
Is there no issuance with the fact that it is a one-way? You know, if they have any maintenance to do or something, it's just like that truck right there. It makes that street one lane.
So after initial installation, all maintenance, those techs would be able to park in that parking lot. So it's actually even kind of better. Everybody's off the road at that point.
Yeah, it looks like the box sits 5 feet within the green belt off the road, so that should be sufficient for, you know, just on foot maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
If there are no other questions, does anyone from the public wish to make comment on SPR 25-12 for 616 McKinley Avenue? Seeing no one step forward, Terry, did we have any correspondence on this application?
No, none was received.
So, I think we're ready for a motion. Again, we're combining 2512 and 2508.
I will move the approval of SPR 25-06 and SPR 25-12, with SPR 25-06 looking to relocate the cabinet to the North Farragut Street side, and that will have to be administratively approved by the planner. These are subject to all the previously read items of Section 34-144, Section 34-145, and the conditions of issuance of permit.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to SPR 25-06 and SPR 25-12. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going
Have
to
a good
close
evening.
this out. Good
You're
evening.
all set now? You don't have any more sites that are going to be built out on this?
There will be still a few more that are submitted here. We are not ready at this time, though, so it'll be a few weeks before we submit those probably.
Okay, great. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, guys.
The chair
Okay.
would entertain a motion for a 5-minute recess so I can go get my glasses.
I would entertain that motion. Do I have a second?
Motion to break for 5?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Because I've never had to use that other than, put the little thing and say, okay.
Right?
Join.
Okay, so now, that's your, and then. It was a little painful, but. Not too bad, it could have been so much worse.
Well, and it'll be interesting for me to talk to SHPO tomorrow and see what, their thoughts are on it.
Yeah. I've found them to be, in person, like, when you chat with them, they're actually pretty cooperative, so.
Yeah.
They try to be reasonable people. You're very welcome, so sorry. We got there.
All right, have a good night.
And then
Thanks.
you're able to get Joe's presentation up?
Yep, I
Where
think
was that?
so. I have that sitting on the desktop.
I didn't see it hanging out at the bottom, so. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm here for you, buddy.
all right. Let's see, we'll get. Yeah. Just that week.
So all next week.
Yeah, all of next.
Okay, all right, let me take a look at the calendar.
Okay. What am I looking for? I'm looking for. Okay, slideshow from the beginning. There we go. It'd be on the 9th.
The 9th at 2:30, same time, same bat channel? Same bat place? Debbie's out that day, but that's okay. No. Oh, that's probably not a great idea. Yeah, I have much compassion for you, yes.
Get mine scheduled.
And
I could do 9 if, this is on Thursday or Wednesday? On Wednesday. I got DDA until like maybe 9.
Maybe 9. You silly guy, 9:30. I mean, I could do 10 o'clock, well, no, because I run the computer, so 9:30 would be safe. And then if you're not done at DDA, we can just wind you up.
Yeah, 9:30 would be good.
9:30 on the 8th? Yeah, go ahead and move it there. So I'm gonna do that, so let me open this, let's edit. If we wind up with people where it stops, please. 8.
When I add it to my phone though, it doesn't add it to my Microsoft for some reason. Yeah. Because Debbie said, oh, I didn't have something on there. I said, yeah, I put it on there from my phone. Okay, we got that.
Lisa, what happened to Terry? Yeah. He's coming. Okay, I would entertain a motion to return to regular order business. You got your glasses?
I so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to return to regular order of business. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are back in regular order. Next item on the agenda is the zoning ordinance amendment review with Giffords Webster. We're looking forward to this. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, so this is amendments round 1. Joe had prepared a presentation that I had printed out, so you have a copy if you wish to make some notes on it. I'll have Joe just introduce himself maybe and have him just get started.
Yes, I'm Joe Tangari from Giffords Webster, and we are working on the zoning rewrite. We have a committee of staff members that we've been working with to develop some draft language for your review. That includes Terry, that includes Shelley, it also includes Debbie and Sarah Dimitrov, and then until recently, Tony Deere was on there as well. So we've been working for the last couple of months on what you see in front of you, and we're kind of working on the next round now so that you'll be able to review something not too long in the future as well. So tonight I'm just gonna give you a little bit of an overview of how we're working on this, and then these are the 3 basic chunks of content that we're talking about: purpose and intent, administration and enforcement, and development procedures. This is all the kind of background stuff in a zoning ordinance that's not really about how a site looks or how it gets built, but more about how the sausage gets made. What are the processes and procedures that we have to follow to get everything done? Does this thing work?
Yeah.
It does, all right. Yep. So just a quick overview of what you can expect here. So this is obviously September 2025, and that's what we're looking at tonight. In November, we expect that we'll be looking at site development standards that includes things like lighting, dumpster enclosures, porches, fences, walls, landscaping, parking, as well as planning and development standards. So that's a pretty meaty chunk of stuff to talk about. And then in January, we'll be looking at the district's definitions for terms in our ordinance, and then standards for specific land uses. And that would be in January. So Three kind of sizable chunks, and we've got some cushion too if we've got to break one of those chunks up over a couple of meetings if we need to, if we find that the discussion goes very deep. But that's the tentative schedule for right now. So I'll definitely be back here in November, and I'll definitely be back here in January, and we'll see if we have to work something else in there too. So for today, we're going to start out with the set of amendments that begins with Article 1, short title, Legal Basis, Purpose, Interpretation, and Applicability. So this content establishes the basis for adopting a zoning ordinance, what the purpose of the ordinance is, and how it should be interpreted. It's the sort of boilerplate content that very rarely gets looked at by an applicant or even staff or a planning commission, just because it's kind of the background of the zoning ordinance. It's sort of what establishes that we can even have an ordinance. So there are 10 subsections here, and some of them are already in your ordinance. Some of them are either modified or new to the ordinance. We found that there were kind of a couple things that we see commonly in other ordinances that we weren't seeing here, so we added them. Short title is literally just how do we refer to this ordinance when we want to refer to it in a way that's meaningful. So Bay City zoning ordinance is how we are what we're calling the ordinance as its short title. Statutory authorization, this is basically just saying the state of Michigan has Act 110 of 2006, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, and that allows us to have this ordinance. There's a purpose statement, so here, what are we trying to do with this ordinance? And promoting the public health, safety, and welfare is kind of the central legal rationale for zoning. So that's right up front. But there's some other detail in there. We had to update a reference because it still referred to the original Zoning Enabling Act from 1921, so we updated that to refer to the current act. There is a section on scope, basically says what can happen under this ordinance. Interpretation and application is 1.5, and that tells us kind of how we should be thinking about how to use the ordinance. What it's not intended to do. And that's related to the next section, which is conflicting regulations. So you have a situation where two regulations in different sections of the zoning ordinance are in conflict with one another. How do we handle that? If there's a discrepancy between the text and an illustration, including its caption, the text is the thing that controls, so that just kind of clarifies how do we proceed legally if we've got something in this ordinance where one part says another thing and another part says something different.
I hate to interrupt, but is this a free flow kind of a presentation? Are we free to ask questions?
So yes, you are. I think on some of these slides, I'll probably get through the slide and then we'll open up for questions, but because we're going section by section here, feel free to ask questions when we get to the section you have a question on.
So real quickly, and this is kind of throughout the whole, Terry shared with us the memo that you sent him earlier, and tying it in now with your presentation, I note that you've color-coded Section 122-16 blue, which would indicate that it's new.
Yes, yeah.
So in the memo that you sent to Terry, I would have expected to see 106 then be blue in the text that you provided, because if it's new, you had indicated that anything new was going to be blue. So
yeah, I don't know why they didn't come out blue on this particular.
it's a technicality, but I'm trying to save myself pulling up the entire existing ordinance and comparing them page by page.
Sure, yeah, I did color code them on this slide, so maybe that could be helpful as we go through this. But yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't wind up blue on here, but yes, 1.5 through 10 and 4 are all the ones that had substantial changes or were new. Severability would be one of those new sections. There is some language about it in the current ordinance, but this is a little bit more robust. Basically, it's saying that if one portion of this ordinance is invalidated, the rest of the ordinance still stands. Effective date, that's just basically saying the ordinance is effective after you adopt it. Repeal of prior ordinances, basically saying that we can't have two zoning ordinances in effect at once. This one supersedes the old one. And then finally, the savings clause basically says if you've got something that's underway when you adopt the new ordinance, that approval still stands.
Just a small note for you. Your Article 1 title says short title, legal basis. Didn't you change that wording? You might want to change it in your title too. At the very beginning of that section, Article 1. Short title, legal basis.
Oh, right. So again, this is kind of basic foundational text. If you have any comments or questions on any of it, I'm certainly happy to discuss them. Otherwise, we can move on to the next item.
Dennis, you had a question? Go right ahead.
Waiting for the chair to recognize me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, throw a shoe at me.
I'm looking under the savings clause. Just ran into a situation where we had a project that was started in terms of design and had been in the process for like 9 months, and then the code changed. And we begged to be allowed to continue under the old code, but we were told no, since we had not submitted anything, even though we had gone out for bids. How are we covering that here?
So I don't believe if you haven't submitted yet, you would be covered under this version of the language. You have to be in the process officially to be covered by this. So I suppose from a staff administrative standpoint, if we kind of are down the road a ways on this ordinance, people kind of need to be told when they come into the process that there is a new ordinance under development, and that will affect your ability to have your approval recognized if you don't submit something before.
That's what I'm getting at. If site plan approval has been granted, then I can see the savings clause coming into effect.
Yeah, it
Not saying
does.
that specifically here.
Was there any reason you hadn't made contact with the authority in terms of the project?
It was the architect's fault.
It's always the architect's fault.
It was just one of those situations where we had been working on the project. I don't know, because it was the building codes. I'm on the civil side, so I'm mostly site work. But on the building side, they changed the building code. And those guys were under the assumption we'd still be able to be under the old code as we had been under design. But as it turns out, similar to what would happen here, you have to have submitted the plans in order to be grandfathered.
Well, I mean, from the city's standpoint, I mean, if you're talking about people who, have never communicated with you, never even begun the process on that side of it, there's really no difference between that and somebody who's doing it brand new from scratch. I mean, it'd be one thing if they had already been in communication and had a meeting with the city and, they had already, but, and that's in what you're describing, how are they to know? That's kind of on them, the company.
I had personally had discussions with the building department concerning this project. It's the animal control facility for Bay County. And that didn't hold any water. So what I want to do is nail this down and say, upon site plan approval, the savings clause is in effect, or something along those lines, just so that there's no confusion.
Something that documents that it's a bona fide project moving forward.
Well, couldn't you just say upon receiving of the application? I mean, does it have to be approval? I mean, I'm just saying that you could hypothetically apply, and if you haven't gotten your approval yet, I mean, there's space there, you know.
That's exactly what I'm looking to do, is to get whatever point in the project we're going to say this is where that takes effect in writing.
I mean, I would say a submitted application, but I guess that's up to.
City Commission. Ultimately, it's City Commission. They'll take our recommendation under advisement, but they get to say yes or no.
I'm just trying to put Terry on the spot.
I knew you were describing a building-related issue there.
Sorry for the interruption. It is a good point, though, that if we can get that kind of a section put into our ordinance, that would make a lot of sense.
Well, I think it does speak to a certain amount of specificity that it should have when it comes to administering. I mean, it might be a one-off thing that hardly ever happens, but it doesn't hurt to put it in there.
The downside of something like that, though, is that if you get something approved before you actually approve your new ordinance, you could be missing something. I mean, there could be something substantial that just because you've gotten the approval, you're under the old ordinance, even though we have something that's could be vitally important that we wanted to affect.
Yeah, but then the alternative to that would be that any time that you had approval and then something changed, you have to go and start the process back over. You know, I mean, that's not really a reasonable expectation.
You can't put the onus of complying with the code based on a code that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, I think
True.
case law would agree with you, generally speaking.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we can move on to administration and enforcement content. So, you know, these sections kind of deal with administration of the ordinance, how the text and zoning map can be modified, how appeals are processed, handling nonconformities, responsibility for enforcement and violation. Start with, there's kind of two memos that speak to administrative and enforcement content. One is focused on nonconformities and the other one has the rest of these sections. So we're going to start with the nonconformities one. These memos that have multiple sections involved, I've provided where the content is in the current ordinance in that table, and then roughly what the new section number is going to be if we've determined that. A couple of them are their own articles, so they don't have section numbers because it's a range of section numbers. But I just wanted to point that out, that we're trying to be clear about where it is now and where it might wind up. We are looking at, in the codification of the ordinance, trying to reflect the article number in the section number. So if you're in Article 25, it's section 25.1, 25.2, 25.3, because right now the codification, the section numbers don't have anything to do with where they are in the ordinance. It makes it a little easier to navigate the ordinance, especially if you're a staff member using it on a daily basis, if you get that additional little bit of information into the section numbers. You're going to see a couple things in here too. There might be a highlighted section reference here. That's just our note to say when we finalize the ordinance, make sure all these section numbers are correct. You'll also see section XX listed a few times, and that's just because we don't know the section number that's referring to yet. We just want to make sure we have something easily searchable. There aren't a lot of words with double X's in them, so we use a double X so we can just do a find and okay, that we have to point to the correct section. So you'll see those throughout the text, and that's what they mean.
Let's make sure we don't actually have a section XX.
We don't, we have an article XX, but not a section XX. It'd be a very popular section if we did it.
So everything's going to stay under section 122?
Yes, 122 will be the chapter of the code that the zoning ordinance is housed in, yes. So the top line items that we've actually changed here are on the slide. There are some other details in terms of what's changed, but this is really the meat of what's changed from a policy perspective. So providing a route for the Planning Commission to approve expansions of nonconformities if certain criteria are met. And that is in section 22.2 on page 2 of that document, where we've provided some criteria and we've said the Planning Commission can do this as under a sort of special land use process, but they have to meet certain criteria in order for the Planning Commission to approve that expansion. We know we've got a lot of kind of non-conforming uses in buildings, so we wanted to provide some ability to do that here. If they can't do it under these criteria, they ultimately will be going to the Zoning Board of Appeals if they want to do something. This does permit rebuilding of non-conforming houses if destroyed. There was a kind of complex formula in there for saying it has to be destroyed to less than a certain extent in order to be rebuilt. Staff felt pretty strongly that we should be able to rebuild those if they are destroyed for whatever reason. So we did make that change.
Yep, we actually had a case just recently on this very topic, so it's nice to see this verbiage in here.
Yeah. And then also allowing conforming alterations to non-conforming structures. There is some fairly restrictive language in the ordinance at the moment that basically says if you have a non-conforming building, you can't expand it. But we have plenty of non-conforming buildings that are non-conforming in one way. Let's say it needs to have a 7-foot setback on one side and it's got a 5-foot setback on the other side. But there's 30 feet on the other side. And right now, under the ordinance, you need to get a variance to add on to the other side. So we've cleared that up and basically said you can add to a building in a conforming way, even if it is non-conforming. So you can't keep building in that area where you're not meeting the setback, but you can build in a way that meets that setback. And those are the major changes here. Are there any questions, comments on that?
Are you looking for comments on specific sections?
Yes, if you do have comments on any specific section here, absolutely.
Okay, I'm looking at the review process for minor site plans, and this will carry over for major site plans, item E. We also have to deal with entities such as MDOT and Eagle. Are we going to address those requirements in the ordinance or not?
Oh, you're in a different memo.
15.4E.
Yeah.
On page
can we
3.
wait until we get to that memo? And are there any ones in the memo that we're just in on the nonconformities before we get to that?
Yeah, you should be seeing section 122, 22.1, which is the administrative enforcement content.
I just want to make sure we retire all questions and comments in this memo before we move on to another one.
I mean, I have a bunch of little nitpicky stuff. I mean, like in individual wording, they talk about when you're in 22.1, it says and the very last line, your added stuff here, and to recognize that certain commercial uses located in otherwise residential districts reflect the unique character of the city. Is there any direction or specificity to which you're referring?
No, in fact, I think it was trying to avoid being specific about particular uses.
So is that discretionary?
Well, I think what it's stating is just that this ordinance does recognize that there's certain commercial uses located in otherwise residential districts reflect the unique character of Bay City. Like I had explained to others, Bay City adopted the first ordinance in 1938. So anything that was constructed in the city, which is probably the majority of it, some of the historic stuff was all done before 1938. So we do have, I guess, unique circumstances with nonconformities in the south end especially. There's several bars that are have kept their residential zoning. So anytime a use is proposed there other than the same use, then it does require zoning board of appeals action. So that's how that, I guess, is trying to address the uniqueness that Bay City has, these commercial nodes that haven't been rezoned.
Right.
In looking at what we're getting at here, since Bay City was founded with ethnic enclaves throughout the city, each with their own meat markets, bars, churches, etc., that is what this, is hitting at.
Essentially, yeah.
We've run through this before. These commercially zoned parcels are not spot zoned. They're just grandfathered. And the issue I have with them is commercial zoning does not require parking. They rely on on-street parking. And all of these are in residential neighborhoods where on-street parking is going to be an issue. I don't know if there's anything we can do to address that. I doubt it, but that's what sticks in my craw.
Well, and I can't help but feel like city planning and the master plan and all these things are trying to go towards, more walkability and having more of these commercial spaces within residential areas. So, in this context, it kind of feels like, okay, yeah, they're grandfathered, but, and we'll allow them to exist, but we're not necessarily encouraging that. Is this in alignment, I guess, is what I'm
Well, that's essentially what
ultimately
it is.
asking with those objectives.
It's saying that we recognize that, yeah, there's uses that are not in the correct zoning district, but we recognize that they're part of the character of the community. And then, of course, some of the other changes that were made make it a little easier to actually do something with these buildings if you need to.
And I did notice too, kind of this back and forth between the usage of the word structures and buildings, and it seemed like in certain places, one was used and certain is the other. Can you speak to that? Is there really a significant difference? Should there be a continuity there?
I would say that, and I could certainly review each instance, but structure is more inclusive than building, because a building would be a type of structure, whereas a structure is really kind of anything built on the ground, so it is a broader term than building.
And I would think so. So is it consistently, it seems like they're almost being used interchangeably sometimes in here, or it'll have an either or. I noticed in one point, one was crossed out in place of the other. There was, I wish I could find it. But there was just, to me, there was some places where it kind of suggested the more broad, and then in other places, the more specific. So I just guess I was just asking, is that intentional, or was that just because they're so similar?
Sure, yeah, we can just make sure that we review that and the right term is used everywhere.
Yeah, it looks like section, 122.22.5 is where you might be referring to, Ashley.
Yeah, that's what kind of tipped me off to the multiple ways of using it. But throughout this, there's different ones, you know, that are used. So I guess I was just asking if there's, yeah, like even C in there, on any non-conforming building or structure or a portion thereof. I mean, there's just some, consistently throughout the document, it's, you know, is it intentional for them or not? Or are they just loosely?
Sure.
And my thought would be that there would be a continuity to it, you know, or have it defined in a definition section somewhere to say.
Yeah, those are both defined terms in the ordinance, so yeah, we need to make sure we're using them correctly. Yeah, we'll do a double check on that one.
There's something else that seems kind of vague, and maybe it's another intentional, but section. I could have jumped ahead. I might be jumping ahead.
Or are you just in the next memo?
And it's E under, I guess we're still in this section, E. And if it's at the top of page 4. Yeah, it says, amendment of this chapter, and upon which actual building construction has been diligently carried on. It's kind of ambiguous. I mean, is there some sort of parameter to that? Like, I mean, you have to be here once a week for, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty common type of language that you see. It is a little open to interpretation. And I think the reason for that is that diligent work can mean a lot of different things. Like you could have been stuck in engineering review for like a while or something, and it's just because there's something that's not working or you're waiting for some permit from the state or something like that. Or you could have your shovel in the ground and you could be working on the building. There's a kind of a lot of different ways that could go. So we try to give staff a little bit of latitude to determine what actually qualifies as diligent work. And if the site's really kind of been abandoned, that lets them sort of say, all right, nothing's been happening here. We can contact the applicant, see if they're still moving forward or interested. And if they're not, or if they've disappeared or something, then you can kind of say, well, all right, obviously nothing diligent is going on here. But it's a fuzzy line kind of by
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thought would be to try to, make that a little bit more clear, have it a little less discretion in that. There's other timeline types of parameters in here. It doesn't seem like it would be too hard to kind of define what that would mean, even a little bit more, down to, some sort of timeline or communication with the city or something. Because I could just hypothetically say, well, I'm working on it. You know what I mean? I've been doing this and that.
Keep in mind that the building permit, once that was issued, then I think the building officials have that clause also, because there is a 6-month period and then they can renew it. But I think what Joe's talking about is similar to how the building officials kind of review their code, but it is based on that 6-month expiration. And then if you don't prove to the building official, then I guess they would just deny the renewal of the building permit. And then they would have to take out a new one. But that's what. And I know our building department does give people, as much latitude as they can on some of those times, but if a project is clearly terminated, then it's terminated.
And doesn't it seem a bit strict, section E3 reestablishment of nonconforming uses. Whenever the nonconforming use of any building, structure, or land has been changed to a,
Microphone.
sorry, Doug. I know, I should be the best at that, right? Whenever the nonconforming use of any building, structure, or land has been changed to a conforming use, the nonconforming, oh, I'm sorry, time out. Never mind, I retract.
All right. Any other comments on the nonconformities? And if you do find like a typo or something, just feel free to send that to Terry, and he can always post it to me, and we'll get it fixed. Well, we can move on to the next item, and if you do think of another question, definitely feel free to go ahead and bring it up.
One general, I do have a specific example, but there are some kind of strict language in here on certain things that, so-and-so shouldn't be allowed or whatever. I mean, hypothetically, couldn't you always, request something? I mean, like, apply for something, like, for example, let me give you an example because I'm not stating it well. Section 22.5, nonconforming structures, number 1. If such a building is altered, remodeled, or modified so as to diminish or eliminate any or all of its nonconforming characteristics, then such nonconforming characteristics shall not be later reestablished. I mean, couldn't you hypothetically just reapply, go through the process again if you wanted to?
You could most likely go for a variance if for some reason you had to do something that,
Like, if you want.
yeah, but you'd wind up probably getting a variance for that, most likely. Moving on to that next item, it's the rest of the administration and enforcement content. It begins with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So there was some reorganization and clarification of duties and powers here. And there was an update to the variance decision-making criteria. Those were the primary amendments that were made here. In particular, on page 2, you'll see the authority has been sort of reorganized. So there's administrative appeals, there's interpretation, variances, and that variances is broken down into non-use or dimensional variances and use variances. So those are really what the Zoning Board of Appeals is making decisions on.
Where, I'm sorry, maybe I missed it, but where are you referring to?
I'm trying to find it too.
I think we're all looking. Are we sure we got this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so it should be, there's 2 memos that say administrative and enforcement content at the top. We were just looking at the one that was focused on nonconformities. The other one will start with Zoning Board of Appeals. It has a table at the top. So we
You
not
look
this
at
one?
the meeting packet real quick here and see if it should have been in there. See if something happened here. Okay, so let's see.
That's going to be the last one, is special land use.
Go down.
You're going to go up because special land uses would have been last.
Yeah.
Site plan review would be.
So that's site plan review, yeah.
That's site plan.
Keep going up. Oh, come on.
It's all the purpose stuff, maybe it would be below.
So I have it starting there.
It might be below.
Then I'll go down. So it jumps into that site plan review. Special land use,
So there's nonconformities.
nonconformities. And that's the end.
Oh, yeah, there's another memo that
Okay, let's see if,
missing apparently.
let's see what happened to that. Yeah, I'd have to get back to my other emails to make sure I didn't skip when I was downloading one of the files. Was I the one that combined these, or did
They all came to you as separate files, so.
separate files? Okay. So is there a possibility I missed? Well, you said they were together though, right?
They came over in the same email, but.
Okay. Yeah, because I printed a full packet before coming in, and I don't have it in my packet. And I just kind of confirmed that through the meeting packet right here, that somehow that one was missed. Yeah, so I apologize. We'll have to get that back up here. But yeah, it looks like it's not in this packet.
Okay. I can still touch on it in my slides so you know what to look for, I suppose, when you get this memo. Then it can be discussed in greater detail at a later date. Because I guess we got to go back to my presentation now.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The items that I just mentioned were the major changes to zoning board of appeals. Let's go back to the presentation mode so I can move the slides.
Okay. Presentation mode. Do I need to do anything?
Just hit the little like podium.
The little what thing? Right there, yeah.
Okay, so these were the policy changes that were made for the zoning board of appeals. Obviously, you're not looking at it. I will just summarize it quickly for you, and then again, we can discuss it in detail at a future date. Amendments and rezoning. The word rezoning doesn't actually appear in the zoning ordinance right now, but when someone wants to rezone a property, that's generally the word that they're thinking of and looking for in the ordinance. So we actually wanted to put it in the ordinance because it is technically an amendment to the zoning map, but most people simply don't think of it in those terms. So that's a bit of a user-friendliness addition. But the other thing is that currently the ordinance has just some really basic paragraphs about how to amend the ordinance, whether you're amending the text or the map. So what we've done is we've set out clear procedures for both text and map amendments. We've created some application requirements for rezoning. What information do we actually need? Decision-making criteria for rezonings, because there aren't any right now. Again, it includes the word rezoning to aid searches, and then it addresses conditional rezonings as well. And that's all new to the ordinance. Other administration and enforcement content, the changes were generally quite minor. Some consistent assignment of responsibility, some consistent terminology, updated statutory references. That's primarily what was done with the rest of that content. And that content would include, in addition to nonconformities, zoning board of appeals and amendments, performance guarantees, so if someone puts up a bond for a project, the duties of the zoning administrator, the planning commission as the zoning commission, you have to establish that your planning commission is your zoning commission. That's just a state law thing. Fees have to be paid when required, and fees are also set by the city commission as by resolution. Permits required, so a little bit about how you go about getting permits, and then enforcement and violation and penalties are the other sections that are dealt with under that chunk of content. So we'll make sure, Terry, I suppose we can get that language to them whenever. We could just get it to them tomorrow, so they've got time to review it, and then it can be discussed at our next available date.
I have a comment, suggestion. In the articles, there, except for Article 1, from what I see in this memorandum, is cited as a digital article, but yet the other ones are Roman numerals. And so for consistency's sake, since 122.15.2 is all digital, then it would be good if Article 15 digital was up in the header instead of a Roman numeral.
Sure. We're going to consult with the municipal attorney to see if we can change to digital new article numbers versus Roman numeral article numbers, because other than like the Super Bowl, nobody ever uses Roman numerals for anything. It would be nice to move to digital article numbers. We will have to verify with the attorney that we can do that, just the way the rest of the code is codified. But if we can do it, we'll definitely do it. Just make a note to emphasize that to myself.
Yeah, and we have made contact with the city clerk's office because we do know that after its adoption, you know, there's the publication, and then the adopted ordinance would be put into a muni code, and then there's a company that provides updates or revisions to that muni code, and that's to follow that process too.
Okay, so that'll move us on to development procedures. So site plan is what we're going to hit first, and I believe you had some comments on that. So I'll go through this slide, and then we'll get to the comments. I just wanted to quickly highlight the major things here. So it establishes a major versus minor site plan as terminology that we can use throughout the ordinance. Certificates of zoning compliance are also provided for here, and then each one is, it says when each one applies. When do you get a certificate of zoning compliance? When do you get a minor site plan? When is it a major site plan? We've tried to make procedures clear. It does raise the square footage threshold for non-administrative review from 3,000 to 4,000 and 7,500 in industrial. So that was a question that we have for you, if that's something that you're okay with. There's guidance on how to handle existing nonconformities in the context of site plan review, and then updated informational requirements and the ability to waive certain requirements for submissions. So if you've got questions or comments, I'm happy to entertain them.
I do. I have both. I have a question in this process for this initial application. We're in section 15.3, and you list all the things that need to be included, but it calls it a preliminary site plan. Can you give me some more clarification? I mean, is that the final site plan? I mean, is there another site plan that's hypothetically more specific later, or is this just the site plan in general that we would hypothetically see?
Well, the first reference is to that pre-application meeting. So the first reference to a site plan is preliminary, just to kind of get them to the table with, some information. And then it would move to site plan review, as we've been calling it. And then final site plan review is when all the conditions that have been discussed as part of the motion are verified before a building permit is issued. So that would be the other reference.
So is it stated somewhere in all of this that, later in that process, then you're having to submit, I assume what would be all the things in this table, but all the things that list doesn't include, all the final things that would need to be on it before it got to us.
Right, yeah, everything in the table would be on it before it got to you.
Because there's quite a few things that are kind of left out of this list.
Which list? The one in 15.3?
And yeah, when they talk about a preliminary, your pre-application process and then your preliminary site plan.
Yeah, I think, well, the idea there is that it's more for discussion, so you're not necessarily going to have a fully built-out site plan that's stamped and everything. It's you're coming in to talk to staff about, here's my idea, here's roughly where I want to put things, what do I have to know? And it's staff's opportunity to provide guidance to a potential applicant. So at this point, they haven't officially applied.
Yeah, and I get it when it comes to like real specific dimensions and stuff, but some things it seems like it still would be more helpful to know, like it talks about off-street parking and loading areas. If I were to sit down at that meeting, I would want to know, do they have a plan for how many spaces? I mean, if we're talking about parking spaces as one of our, things that we consider, then they should know that before they sit down. You know what I'm saying? Just things like lighting is another one that I think of. Just things like that. Do they have a general idea on some of those things that when we look at it, are things that are kind of the sticking points, if you will? That's changing.
Well, I think I can help answer a little bit by saying that we have on the webpage and what they're always provided at the time of site plan review at this pre-application meeting is a checklist, and it has, similar to the other section, which is where the table is in 15.6, we have a checklist that matches up with that. But for that pre-application meeting, like Joe was saying, is sometimes they don't have everything. And what our experience has been the last few years is that economic development on some of the projects wants to hold a meeting to get everybody at the table, planning, building department. So we have that meeting, and then depending on, the other type of project, then there is this pre-application meeting where we would, again, talk specifically about the conditions of the site plan. And then that's also when I invite all the city departments. So the city departments, when they're notified that a pre-application meeting has taken place, I give them, what is available from whoever's working on the project. And then oftentimes they just need to know the location because they're going to pull up their utility maps and then kind of come to the meeting with their utility maps and be able to talk about, the circumstances. And then from there, the design engineer would be able to take that information and work with the utility information on the site plan.
I think there's, on your 122.15.4 and 122.15.5, both As on both of them, I think they're citing a table that should be 15.6A, maybe?
Yes, yeah, the section number changed when we added another section. 15.6A is correct.
The one thing that I typically run into in a pre-app meeting is, where are all the easements? Sometimes an easement running through a property can make it undevelopable. And I don't see any place where that's getting caught by staff. And I don't know if that's something that you want to take that responsibility for, if you want to push it back on the developer.
Yeah, I would defer to staff on that one.
Yeah, I would think that it would be on the developer, the engineer, to, you know, do any title search that might be needed on the property. So,
Just thinking out loud, knowing what comes in.
Right.
Some of these things are, you know, table napkin sketches. And
Right.
those individuals aren't going to be aware of some of these things until they actually, you know, consult with an engineer to actually put a drawing together for them.
Right.
Just something off the top of my head.
Yep.
Going to go back to what I started with before I realized I was in the wrong place. 15.4 and 15.5, item E in both of those refers to additional review and permits. And we've run into situations where, you know, we're on an MDOT highway where MDOT has to be consulted, or we may be in a floodplain where Eagle has to be consulted. How are those going to be addressed in the ordinance? Or is that, once again, something we leave up to the developer?
Well, ultimately, it is their responsibility to get those permits. However, it can be referred to in these paragraphs. I think what you would do is simply, generally, you're not going to get engineering approval if you don't have those things, but you could also put in a sentence into both item E's that say, you know, the applicant shall also be responsible for acquiring any needed state and county permits or something like that, because they're already dealing with the city, but yeah, state and county might have some things that they're requiring. And that would cover everything, so you don't have to list all the different agencies and stuff.
No, well, the thought that I just had is because we have that access management, should any mention of it be in this early process, just for somebody would be aware that if it was on Euclid, that, you know, there is the what did I just call it, access management?
I think that because you're doing a pre-application meeting, that is if in their due diligence, the applicant has not discovered the Euclid Avenue access management standards and they are trying to locate on Euclid Avenue, I think that's staff's chance to say, you're on Euclid Avenue and we have a set of standards that applies to your access here. Please read that section and make sure that you're complying with it because we see this problem or that problem.
Okay.
And then I wanted to speak to your kind of question that was a concern that I had before you even mentioned it. This threshold for site plans raises the square footage for a non-administrative review. I thought it was 4,000 as written in here. And I don't remember 75 being in there, but anyway, that seems awful high.
It's 3,000 now, and yeah. So the staff's inclination was to request that it be raised to 4,000, and then in the industrial districts where we have larger buildings, 7,500. But of course, they would defer to you as to what your comfort level is.
Joe, could you use the microphone?
What's that?
Right into the
Oh,
microphone.
yeah, sorry. Sorry, got a little furrow from it. Yeah, so staff's inclination was to ask if you were willing to go up to 4,000 and 7,500 in the industrial districts where the buildings are larger. But of course, they will defer to you as to what your comfort level is for a threshold.
I mean, because hypothetically, okay, with your, and I'm sorry, now that I'm looking at it, it was exactly the opposite of what I said, is what's in here. But, I mean, yeah, when they talk about, what is it, the 4,000, I mean, you could have a 63 by 6, if you're thinking in square, a 63 by 63 foot building. I mean, that's huge. For, you know what I mean, for not having to be reviewed. And then 7,500, I mean, you got an 85 by 85 foot square. I mean, that's a large building.
Well, what this includes is the gross floor area plus the land area. So if somebody was constructing a parking lot, that would be part of the 4,000 square feet.
Which is fine if it's a parking lot, but it says all new buildings, uses, and off-street parking areas. So you're saying that does it always include the whole lot regardless, or is it only the new portion?
It would be the portion that's being
Yeah.
modified or constructed newly.
Okay, so yeah, so
Right.
I go back to saying that's huge.
Well, in the 7,500 square feet, I know that was raised because we had that example of streets treatment where they had came to the Planning Commission for site plan review for an open bay hangar, and then they had to come back for another trip a few years later to construct the same building. So I think it was from that recent experience that we had where it's like, okay, because on that particular case, I know they were anxious to get the building permit underway, but it's just one of those types examples where, you know, for that one, the size of the building and the location and the fact that it was already pre-approved at an earlier planning commission meeting, they were just duplicating it. Actually, that is exactly on the site plan. They only had approval for the one. They did show a second building, but because that was in the future, that one wasn't approved. So when they did want to build the future building that was shown on the plan, they did have to go back again for that site plan review.
I mean, it seems like it's kind of aimed at, I mean, like how many cases would this be affecting? I mean, I writing an ordinance for, or changing the ordinance for, based on something that affected one case. I mean, how many cases are now, you know, meeting this threshold and are flipping back to administrative review now? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, I think, you know, maybe Joe could speak to this a little bit better, but I think, you know, in the field of planning, there is a tendency to have staff be able to review and move forward with, you know, certain projects. And, you know, maybe Joe can speak to the 7,500 square foot size. But I guess there is more of a desire to maybe not tie up the planning commission with some of these reviews because, you know, administrative staff could get those done.
what's the existing ordinance? What are the,
3,000
3,000.
is the existing.
And then it doesn't have any provision for the
It's like
M1.
54 by 54 if you were squaring it.
Yeah.
it doesn't distinguish industrial versus,
That's correct. Yeah, there's no distinction now. It's 3,000 blanket.
Yep.
it's a 4,500.
But, you know, another example would be on Bacchus Street, there were 5 buildings constructed. Say they only constructed 4 of those large warehouses. If they had the space, the location, and the setbacks, and they wanted to build a 5th, I think it's also trying to address those type of situations too, where, yeah, you might have a large square footage of a building, 7,500 square feet, but there's already 3 of them on the property.
Well, I'm noticing a pattern here. I mean, maybe is something that would more logically address this versus just making it a square footage thing. It sounds like the core of it here is more dealing with administratively reviewing, you know, like, I don't know how you would phrase it, but like duplicate buildings or additional that are just in addition to what's pre-existing, you know what I'm saying? Is there some sort of potential other wording where it's not based on size so much as, you know, an extension of existing structures? You know what I mean? I get it's not the exact same structure, but do you get what I'm saying? I mean, it sounds like that would make more sense. I mean, based on what you're telling me, it's the problems or what it was aiming to address versus just a strict square footage.
Yeah, because obviously there's different size lots within the M1 and M2. So if you had a small lot and you're proposing a 7,500 square foot, you know, that could be the entire site.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, so I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think when you're dealing with like raw numbers like that, you're kind of opening yourself up for, you know, different issues. You know, you're kind of solving your problem there, but potentially creating other problems. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. It just seems like there's a better suited way of addressing what you're talking about, or what it seems like the problem is, as far as, you know, replicating buildings or parts of buildings.
But it is based on whatever site plan review they're submitting. So they may have an existing building, but they're only doing a site plan review for an additional parking lot or something like that. So that's the part that's being reviewed for the 3,000 or the 7,500, not the whole.
Right, I get that, but my point is that if you're just doing a replication of another building that already exists, it seems like, yeah, we wouldn't really need to see that regardless of the size. But if, you know, maybe there's a smaller building that isn't a replication of an existing building that maybe we would want to review. So then you're kind of, by making it a straight square footage parameter, you're eliminating, you know, review of things that you might want to review just strictly based on size to try to solve a problem that's not really addressing.
Yeah, but we have to have a standard at some point to start.
Well, we do. It was 3,000.
We have 3,000, but if we want to take advantage of our staff and let them approve plans under that threshold, so that we don't have to, I mean, it takes time. And anybody that's doing development, time is money.
I mean, I understand the principle. I'm just saying it seems like that's a rather large threshold, in my opinion. I mean, that you could build a lot with that, with those and be under those parameters.
Well, they still have to get review. It's just not by us, it's by staff.
I understand.
Over the same criteria that a full site plan would get. So, I mean, if you want to propose a different criteria, let's hear it.
I guess I don't know, is there a middle ground there?
So I think there's a couple other things in here that I just want to point out is that all the admin review happens with things that are entirely by right. So you're really looking at setbacks and heights and things. If there is, for instance, an ordinance permitted waiver, let's say we have a section of our ordinance that requires a concrete wall, but you can waive that down to a fence. Under certain circumstances, that gets referred to the Planning Commission. So the discretionary portion of it can be referred to the Planning Commission under the language of this ordinance. So the staff is really reviewing things where it's like, is the number correct for the most part? And that's really what we're trying to do is let staff handle are these numbers correct, et cetera. And then if it gets into more discretionary territory or we've got to waive something, move it over to the Planning Commission.
But as it's written now, doesn't that impetus to decide whether it does or not lie with the official? On whether that's discretionary or not, the way it's worded? Or am I reading that wrong?
At the moment, it does.
Well, I guess the solution would be to drop the M1, M2 at 75 and just have it consistent at 4,000 across the board. So we would get a extra 1,000 square feet to be able to review it. It's just a suggestion.
I mean, and I'm not against what you're saying, that would make sense, but I think in that case, if you left it this way, maybe change the wording to require that it come before us if there was a discretionary element to it. You know what I'm saying? That might be a good middle ground as well. And then leave those numbers as written.
Well, and like Joe was saying, the special uses would still come to you no matter what. So,
Yeah, special uses. Definitely.
right, the special uses would come no matter what size the square footage would be. So this is referring to those permitted uses.
I think she's referring to 15.4D, where it says the planning department may refer an application for minor site plan approval to the planning commission when it finds that an ordinance permitted waiver or other discretionary approval is required. I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is that may should be a shall.
Is there a need to add to that, that it isn't compliant with certain requirements? For example, it's just in addition to something that has already been approved. In other words, there ought to be some standards that say, okay, this doesn't have an issue that may have to come even though it meets this square footage.
No, I agree. Anytime you've got a situation where a site plan is presented where there are no special considerations, it meets all the requirements for the zoning district it's in, there's no reason to bring it to us because we can't deny it anyway. So allowing staff to review it makes a lot of sense. Anything we can do to speed up the process is going to help the city.
Yeah,
So
no,
I don't have an issue with the item here. And knowing Terry, I don't think he's going to take and stick his neck out too far on any of this, so I'm not really worried.
And I agree, for the record, but we are writing ordinances here, and it's not always going to be Terry. But no, we had a case just like that a few months back, where there was no, it didn't diverge in any case. And I even said, why are we looking at this? Terry could have reviewed this. I think I may have even brought it up at the meeting. So I 100% agree with that. I just think when we're writing these things, we should build it into the system that it be, finite and not discretionary, that if there is anything like that, it should come before us. Leave if that's the case, then leave the numbers as is, that's fine. But it should be a requirement then that it come before us if that's the case. And if not, why do we need to see it? Well, I know, but that's Terry. What if Terry quits tomorrow? I'm kidding, don't quit. Please, God, don't.
Well, the other thing that factors a little bit into this is our fee schedule is relatively low. So it's not like we're asking them to, put a substantial amount just in the application. So I think that kind of factors into some of it too, that the cost of that. When you submit an application in some of the other communities, there's probably quite a bit higher cost to do that. So there you would try to, maybe have the staff be able to review that to save, the cost of development, but that would only apply for certain ones anyway.
Could we not consider in 122.15.4D substituting shall instead of may, making
Yes,
it
I
a
think that
requirement
was
versus discretionary?
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is that, and you may wind up kind of really hyper-focused on one issue, on a plan when it comes to you, but you're the public body, you can make that discretionary decision.
Right.
And move them along.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Doug?
In 122-15.4D, where the last sentence says the planning department may refer, and we change that to shall.
Yeah.
Make it mandatory, not discretionary.
I suggest we do that for 15.5E as well.
15.5, if it's a major plan, it's already coming to you. So you'll already be seeing the major plans.
Sorry, which subparagraph?
15.5 refers to the major plans. All major site plans will come to the Planning Commission.
Right.
Understood, but under E, we're saying the applicant may apply for building permits, and I think what we wanted to say is the applicant shall apply for building permits. Or am I mistaken?
Oh, I see where it says if engineering approval is not required. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Why I don't see may. In E?
It's in the last line of E under 15.5.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
We ready to move on? Because I want to look at a different item here.
Sure.
Yeah, so do I. Go ahead.
In 15.6, item 6 in the table, I think that's a little bit of overkill in terms of preparing drawings like this, because if you go, where did I see that?
15.6, what number?
Okay, in the table, 15.5, at the bottom of the page, page 4,
Should be 6.
6, yeah.
item number 6, small-scale drawing or illustration indicating zoning designation of subject and adjoining properties. I don't think we need to put that in there because that information should be on the overall drawing. All adjacent lots should have their zoning called out in that drawing.
Yeah, I can
Doing a little
follow that.
diagram seems like a bit much.
Yeah, it's funny, it's because the ordinance right now actually requires that small-scale illustration. But we can remove the small-scale illustration language and just say, tell us what the zoning designation of the subject and adjoining properties is, and then they can put it on the main plan.
If you go to the next page, item 11, that's exactly what it does.
Oh, yeah, right, okay. So yeah, you just X out 6, you just don't need that extra little.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Picking that up.
Yeah, you just don't need it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, couldn't you just look at the zoning map as it stands? Do you really need it?
And Joe,
As
make sure
somebody
you're
preparing
changing
drawings,
that
you want
table
that
to
information
6.
on this.
Okay. In the verbiage as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yep.
Yeah, and
It's typically just put on the adjacent lot.
yeah, right. You just say what the zoning of all those parcels is. And basically, it tells us that you've actually looked at the zoning map and kind of know what you're dealing with.
Another question. I lost my place. There was something about, okay, you were under item 12, drives within 50 feet of the site. Are we requiring them to show the drives on both sides of any streets that the property abuts? Or just one side?
The way it's written right now would be anything within 50 feet. So if there was a driveway across within 50 feet, you'd have to be showing it. I usually like to see driveways that are across so that you can tell if you've got any adverse lefts and things like that. So could probably massage that wording to make sure that we see that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because actually 50-foot would include the right-of-way.
That's a good point, yeah. Okay. Yes, that's a good point.
Anybody, any more questions on this section? Because I've got one on the next section. Oh, go ahead, Dennis.
Go one more. On item 24 for landscaping, are we going to require a landscape architect prepare the plan, or is this just going to be anybody in the office? Some places I've run into, they require a landscape architect seal. I just want to make sure that we're not going to go that far, if that's the case.
Well, I was going to say, that's kind of a policy question, is do you want to make sure it's by a landscape architecture, or are you okay with the civil putting the stuff on there? If you're okay with the civil putting it on there, then I wouldn't mention anything about an LA seal. As long as it's done professionally, generally speaking, I think it's probably going to be fine.
So if we refer back up to 9, we're already requiring a professional seal, but we don't differentiate for any particular, it
It
could be,
actually says landscape architect in that verbiage.
yeah, it could be,
The professional seal referred to there will be of the civil engineer. The landscape plan can be performed by the civil engineer, but in a lot of instances in other communities, they require a landscape engineer do the plan and seal his drawing.
Do we have any type of ordinance or anything that, I know there's certain things about number and so many feet, but I mean, it sits here and talks about detailing of the plants by genus, species. I mean, do we get that specific? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it necessary?
If it's required landscaping, then you want that. If it's just the landscaping that they're doing like around the front door and that doesn't impact a requirement, you don't necessarily need it. But if they're required to have a tree on the site somewhere or something.
But I mean, doesn't it usually just say, I mean, everything I've seen is just that it's either a tree or a bush or, you know what I'm saying, every so many feet. I mean, it doesn't take a landscape architect to say, okay, I'm going to put a tree along this line every 3 feet. You know what I'm saying? But if you're getting into, what genus and species it is, that's where it starts to get dicey. You know what I'm saying? So is there anything in our ordinances that specifies that it has to be a certain species, or does it just have to be a tree?
I believe you have a prohibited species list.
Yeah, there is.
Sorry, say that again?
I believe you have a prohibited species list for trees. So one of the things that you're doing is you're making sure that one of the prohibited species isn't being planted, because you have invasives and other things that certainly don't fit in this hardiness zone or just aren't going to do well in an urban environment. So you do kind of need to know what's being planted. Also, if you've got size regulations, you are going to want to know how big the thing they're putting in is. It's a pretty standard requirement.
I mean, couldn't that easily be solved? I mean, easily solved by just asking them what they're planting? I mean, do you really need to require a landscaping architect? I mean, maybe that.
Well, you definitely don't need to require a land plan to be prepared by a landscape architect, and this doesn't right now. Certainly, your civil engineer could say, "Well, these are the plants we're going to do: 2 red maples and a linden." But give us the information about the plants that you're planting. And then if you've got a landscaping area that's not a required landscaping area, well, do whatever you want with it. We don't need to know what plants are in there.
I guess my response is to Dennis, that's overkill.
Well, the closer you get to Detroit and some of the other high zoot neighborhoods, it's a requirement. I've had to go through it. That's why I was saying in Bay City, I don't think we need to. Do we have, and I can't remember if I looked in the ordinance or not, do we have a listing of street trees, other trees and shrubs that we allow or that we require?
Yeah,
Some municipalities do. I don't recall if ours does.
yeah, the current ordinance does have a list of different shrubs and trees.
What do you mean by require? You mean only in a
Well, for
right-of-way for
instance, we
street trees?
require certain frontage trees within the right-of-way. So if you got to have 1 tree every 30 feet and say 6 shrubs, in that area, because of all the fun we've been having with our trees in this city, we should have a list of trees that are acceptable in that area. What kind of shrubs would we allow as a green belt area? And like I said, I'm not sure because I haven't dug into ours in a while, but I'm pretty sure we have those called out someplace.
I mean, there's the list that the city, will come and plant for you for the street trees. There's a list of like 5 or something. I don't remember exactly how many, that they're willing. But I mean, is that limiting? I mean, are you,
Well, the thing is, you don't want to end up with something like a Bradford pear or a silver maple. Because the pear is invasive and the silver maple has a weak root structure. So you want to make sure those aren't included in your list.
so shouldn't that be on your little prohibited
I think
list?
they're on your prohibited list. But yeah, there are good street trees and bad street trees. There are trees that are more likely to raise a sidewalk than others. There are trees that are more salt tolerant than others. So there are definitely ordinances that have a list of, for your street trees, they could even be suggested species in some cases.
I thought we had that, but I'm not, I thought we had a list of, I know we have a policy from 2018 that speaks about vegetation in the right-of-way. So there's a list of trees and everything like that.
It's, the list of trees is on the website.
Yeah, I mean, are we talking about ones that the city is going to plant or that you're going to? Because I
these
didn't
are
think you
on the
could
private.
plant your own tree in the right-of-way. Is that a misunderstanding? Because I didn't think in the right-of-way you could plant your own tree.
There's a couple of sites I'd like to tell you to go look at in terms of what the property owner has actually planted in the right-of-way, and you'd be amazed.
Well, I mean, what's allowed, not what's done.
Whether it's allowed or not, it's being allowed just because it's still there.
Anyway, this is something we need to look at, so you might want to pencil yourself a note to make sure that we cover this in the ordinance.
Yeah, I've got a note here
Okay, thank you.
to that effect. Thank you.
Any other questions in this section?
The only
I'm going to
thing,
ask Terry a question here. We are required, anybody developing needs a sign permit, right?
correct.
So do we want to be on top of the signage as it states here in 27?
And my question, because they're proposing taking that out. And I just wondered if it was there rationale for taking these particular items out for the site plan approval?
I'm sorry, where do you see that?
Yeah, 27,
15.7,
15.
items F, G, H, I, J, and K are proposed to be removed.
Didn't they just move that into the table?
Well, essentially, it's covered in the table, but also it's a given that a site that's going to require site plan approval would need to meet these sections. And one of the reasons that we're striking those there is that if you were to, let's say, add another section that would apply broadly across site plan, sites that require a site plan, and you didn't add it to this section, there's a chance that someone's going to think it doesn't apply or miss it. So rather than kind of listing out these sections that apply anyway, we've stressed that you need to show us this stuff on your plan, but we've taken out the section references so that we, A, don't overlook something inadvertently in the future, and B, they're going to have to meet these standards regardless of whether they're listed here or not. 'Cause it
So
says
did
that-
I understand that we moved all of those struck items into the table?
Well, they're all reflected in the table in one way or another. Item B here, the design of the site is in compliance with all standards of the zoning ordinance, covers items F through K, because they're all sections of the zoning ordinance.
I'm going to jump in from a professional angle here, and I'm going to say, if I hand this design project off to somebody who's got 2 years of experience, I almost want to have those items in there as a checklist for them. If it's in the table, I'm not too concerned, because that'll be the new checklist. I just want you to confirm that that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, it's all reflected in the table.
I'm just thinking of it in terms of when we make a motion now, we cite all of the standards. And this would certainly make our job easier. But on the other side of the coin, it's going to make Terry's job harder because he's going to have to go through the checklist and tell us, yeah, everything is there.
Well, and it's not even just a matter of where in you put it. Basically, this table is saying this is what needs to be required for information, but there's no authority given to that. I mean, you're not requiring, it's like it's saying this is what should be considered.
No,
But
it's
you're not
requiring it.
necessarily requiring that it be that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
And it is requiring it. This is what's required for a site plan.
Well, what bothers me with that is right now we've got A through N. Do we want to switch to 1 through 28?
No. Well, that's what I'm saying. It would be contingent upon staff and their report to us that site plan meets all of the requirements of section 122-15.6.
But it also states in A, any item in the table may be waived by the reviewing authority when it is deemed unnecessary to the review. Well, yes. I guess you could interpret that differently.
So if it's a major site plan, the planning commission would be the one saying, actually, we don't need that information, and there'd be a reason you wouldn't need it. And if it's staff reviewing it, they would be the ones saying that, making that determination.
Well, and the one thing I would like to point out, because it would be new to the office, is going back to section 15.2 letter B, that zoning compliance certificate. We have not had a zoning compliance certificate in the past. When we were working with the previous consultant, we were asked if we had a zoning compliance certificate, and I said I did, but it wasn't utilized. It was something that I had recognized that our office was lacking, you know, what other departments sometimes use with this certificate. So with the current consultant, we provided that zoning compliance because it was recommended to make use of this certificate. So that is a form that we have. I think it might have to be modified a little bit because the current draft certificate is more geared towards residential, but we could easily add the commercial component to it. And then it is stating that zoning compliance permits shall be issued in accordance with that table that we were just reviewing. So that is something new to the office that will be part of the record for either issuance of a permit or tracking of what we need to do for it.
Any other
Gary, how does
comments
that
on-
work when you've got a administrative approval to not have a site plan? It says for development not requiring a site plan,
Right.
but
Yep.
you probably require a site plan for everything.
Well, we require a drawing at a minimum, but not necessarily engineered site plan. So, you know, a simple example would be some of the site plan review that we do for like the issuance of temporary tent sales. Somebody just brings in a sketch, we look at it and say, okay, just make sure that this and that, and then they get the ability to issue that. So it's not, some of those issuances of approval don't always warrant that.
Well, Dennis, that whole section A, 15.2A, is laying out all the instances where.
Where it applies, right?
And we do get a preliminary site plan under that 15.3A. So it's not that full-blown thing from the chart in 15.6.
Right, okay, yep.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this section?
Doug, if I may I, excuse me, sorry, may I be excused for the remainder of the meeting? I have another meeting that I'm running behind for. I wasn't anticipating us running this late this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you for sticking it out, Timothy.
When it references these digital copies, I think it mentions it in a couple different spots. Looks like B under the table, and I thought there was a spot somewhere else. Not to sound silly, but like, what if they don't? You know what I mean? Like, isn't that kind of more on the city to make sure for their records that one exists? I mean, is something contingent if they don't? I mean, do they not get their, I'm just saying, in ensuring that you have that for the records, do you really want all of that impotence to be on the applicant unless there's some sort of stopgap there?
Generally, they're going to be creating plans digitally today anyway. They
You would
should
think.
be able to give you a PDF of their plans.
But I mean, if you had like one of these daycares that's just drawing on a piece of paper or something, or one of these other instances where you don't need an engineered site plan, I mean, shouldn't the impetus be more on the city to make sure that one exists? I'm not saying that they have to create it, but I mean, is there some sort of, like what happens if they don't?
We're really trying to facilitate city record keeping there. I mean, I suppose if someone only had something in some sort of physical form, the city could maybe even scan it itself. But I mean, 99.9% of all plans these days are created digitally somehow, yeah.
Right.
Sake of ordinance, I mean, shouldn't there be some sort of something?
Well, we're trying to go to a paperless society, and we want to save those trees. But there are times where you're going to want to distribute to other departments, and you might want the hard copy so that you guys don't have to print them.
Right,
Right, yeah, and we have made a little carve out. You can request printed copies if they're necessary to facilitate thorough review. So you're kind of covered there. The real expense when you're submitting a plan comes from all the printing and the folding and the mailing and
right, and then,
You're talking to a guy who used to run a blueprint machine.
yeah. First job I used a stat machine. So things were different.
yeah.
The ammonia smell was horrible.
Oh man, yeah.
We want to move on to special land use. Are we ready for that?
Yes, if there's no other comments, we could certainly do that.
Before we do, can I send us back to 15.9? Why are we extending the approval out 2 years instead of just one?
Trying to remember the discussion that caused us to do that. Terry, you might have a little more insight.
Well, one of the first things that comes to mind is, oftentimes there's Oprahs that get involved and maybe some other steps and processes that they need to meet in order to do the development. And I think 1 year does seem like it goes by quick. So having it valid for 2 years, if nothing else changes, it's only a timing thing. I think it would help relieve the fact that, okay, 1 year is expired and now you got to take it back just because of that calendar.
I don't have an issue with it, I was just curious. I did get burned on that for $1,000 because I didn't keep track of the year in a different municipality. So, yeah, it's a good idea.
And just, this is just because of your comment earlier, I noted it about making reference to specific ordinances, trying to put those in writing, section 15.7, and if you flip the page, top of page 7, where it says public utilities are provided in accordance with the regulations of public utility providers, stormwater management is considered with city, state, and federal regulations. Should there be some sort of reference to which those are, like where those are, which specific, you know what I'm saying? I mean, regulations.
I think if we just say city, state, and federal regulations, that's going to kind of be a blanket to cover everything. If we start to try to drill down into specific statutes and things, those change over time. And I think you want to just keep it general so that you have to cover everything that's required. And
In the
if
case of
something new
stormwater
comes up-
management, our engineer is the one responsible, so I think that's fine.
yeah,
She's gonna be on top of it. Or he, if we lose her. Before we move ahead, can I get another 5-minute recess? Either that or continue without me, because nature calls.
Anybody else
Motion,
want to take a break?
motion for a break for 5, for Dennis.
All right.
I have a motion for a 5-minute break. Support? All those in favor?
That's
Aye.
true too, yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Can I aye
Do
for
I need to
Dennis?
set a timer on this?
5 minutes, all right, we'll set a timer. Joe, let's see. Here's my timer. By the time I set it up, my 5 minutes will be over. No, I'm only at 11% battery too. Be 20 after.
Joe, we weren't going to do 22 tonight, were we? Terry?
Say that again?
122.22, we have a section that you sent from the memo. Or did we already talk about this?
oh, we did, yeah, nonconformities, we talked.
Oh, yeah, okay,
We did
nonconformities.
talk through that one.
Yep.
Yes, we did?
Yes.
We did go through that.
one, yep.
Yep.
So special land uses is all that's left. It's just this last one. Yeah, 22 is nonconformities. That was one of the early ones we discussed. It was so long ago.
Yeah. We did do 22, yeah, that's all that we started with. Put that over there.
Don't go very far, Terry. He's back.
At a 7-minute break.
I'm sure he's checking in, yeah. I'm surprised I haven't gotten a call. We got a minute left on the recess, so. Don't drink coffee late in the day. Okay. Do I have a motion to go back into regular order of business?
I move, we return.
Second.
Support.
Motion and support to go back into regular order of business at 9:20. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're back in regular order. Special land.
Okay, special land uses, yes, this is the last item. Adjustments to approval criteria was the main thing that we worked on here. We did also add some clarification about when a special land use has to come back for reapproval when it's modified. This is an ambiguity in a lot of ordinances. You have a special land use that's approved and somebody wants to make a modification to the site. Do they have to go back through the special land use process, or do they have to just get site plan approval? So we actually said when they have to go back through the special land use process. And then some site plan exemptions have been added as well. In fact, it's funny that you brought up the home daycares earlier, because they're actually one of the ones that, if they're approved by a special land use, they can do a plot plan in lieu of a site plan. But this is a nice short section. I don't know if there's any questions or comments, but if you've got them, now is the time.
Well, one that just came up recently in review process for special land uses. A, review of the site plan when required and requests for special land use approval shall be concurrent. Do you remember when we were doing, it's Lindsay's place, the apartments on Center, or the bed and breakfast on Center? And I said, well, can't we just approve the use and, but not the site plan, so that they can, know it had to be concurrent? And that kind of created, we had to get creative. I don't remember in the end how we wound up doing it, but to get around that, because it kind of created a stumbling block, because it said that it had to be concurrent. So I was just curious what the thought is with that. I mean, does it make sense to do them at the same time? Yeah, but I mean, does it have to be so strict, I guess?
I think I read somewhere in this material that the order is always Planning Commission first and then Zoning Board of Appeals, but I don't remember where I read it.
True, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't think that hits on what she is addressing. Yeah, the way it was worded in the current ordinance, it said concurrently. So the question was, can the special use be granted, and then, do an approval on the site plan knowing that it had to either come back or be reviewed by staff?
Exactly.
So, yeah. Could a meeting be held where they approve the special use, but then because they're not happy with the site plan, that they would have to come back to the next meeting for the site plan review, but they did actually receive the special use?
Or administrative, just like you said, if there was something for that. But I guess I was just curious what this original, rationale was for why they have to be done that way. I mean, yes, it does make sense since you're putting it all together to do them at the same time, but I mean, why does it have to be?
So
Give you
from
some historical context.
recent history, there was a case that came before Planning Commission for special use. No. It's a Housing Commission. Remember when on the site? They needed a variance for height on the buildings, and they got a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then they came to the Planning Commission for site plan review, and it was denied for, it doesn't matter why, it was denied. And the appeal for that is back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the Zoning Board of Appeals overturned the Planning Commission's decision, and it ended up in court, because that's the venue for an appeal of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Why was it done what seems to be backwards?
Well, that's what we're trying to make sure doesn't happen again. We're
I mean-
establishing, because it went to the Zoning Board of Appeals first, and I don't know why, I
Oh,
wasn't.
that's what I was getting at, is why would it ever be there first?
Well, it did, and it won't again, as long as we establish priority of how we make our approvals.
I mean, that's stated in other place in here as far as, your order of procedure. But I guess I'm still, to me, that doesn't really answer why this has to be a concurrent process.
I think one of the rationales behind concurrency is that a special land use can be denied even if it's in the right district, because of the location in the district is somehow, a little more impactful on surrounding properties or something, and it just doesn't feel right in that location in the district. That's one of the things that you can do with a special land use. However, you could design the site in such a way that that concern for that location is diminished. And I think that because the design of the site can affect whether or not the use is appropriate in that location or is being appropriately handled in that location, I think that's why most ordinances try to have them approved concurrently.
I mean, hypothetically, if that's the way you're going and you got denied, let's say you were just doing the special use, I mean, you can always reapply, can you not? I mean, if you get denied, doesn't that kind of solve the problem? If you feel like you could make some sort of modification that would make it more, acceptable?
Right, but if your special land use is approved kind of under sort of an understanding that they're going to do certain things, and then they come back with a plan that's compliant with all the numbers in the ordinance, and it's not doing the extra stuff that you thought, then you've already kind of given the special land use approval. I think that could be a potential problem.
Well, but then wouldn't you, yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. If it still checked all the boxes but didn't for the,
Right, like you were looking, okay, they were gonna do some extra screening, so you were okay with the special land use.
well,
Under those
could your land use hypothetically be conditional on those things? I mean, aren't you saying it's
Yeah, it could be
Proposed.
hypothetically, but if you don't have the site plan in front of you, it becomes a,
If the site plan isn't approved, the special use is redundant. It's moot.
right, but hypothetically, you're
anything.
paying a lot of money to have these site plan, I mean, if you're, getting good site plans, I mean, you're kind of saving people have to, if, hypothetically, if they get rejected, they just spent a lot of money on something they now can't do.
Cost of doing business.
I knew you were going to say that, Dennis.
In some municipalities in the past, the special use hearing happened a month before the site plan hearing. A lot of places went to concurrency in order to save time for the developer.
true, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
It seems like you could create problems either way, frankly. I mean,
Well, if you deny the special use and approve the site plan, how is that going to work?
that's what I'm saying. So that's exactly my point, is that, okay, you can, now you've,
So you approve the site plan, then you approve the special use, or vice versa?
no, you should be doing the special use hypothetically first. I mean, I guess, or at the same time, but I mean,
Concurrent.
yeah, but why is it, I mean, especially if it's for the developer, why do we have to make it an ordinance? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the option's always there to do it concurrently.
Well, let's take a look at a specific hypothetical. I want to build a gas station with a car wash. The requirement is I have to have 7 stacking spaces for my car wash outside of the building itself. I've only got room for 5. You're gonna give me a special use? That's gonna go back to the ZBA for a variance, then it comes back for site plan approval and a special use.
Fine, never mind.
All right,
Anything else on this?
On 122-16.3, if you're really talking about a major site plan, you got to change your reference to 5. 15.5, that's the major.
also something to take into consideration is when there's a special use being asked for, we're going to get community input, and if community input is negative, we might deny that special use. Let's say you wanted to, we'll go with the car wash again. Car wash is too noisy, the neighbors don't want it. We get 100 people in here saying, don't do it. We have the authority to deny the special use based on that input.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying that that's something to consider, because if we deny the special use, we've already automatically denied the site plan.
Right.
So this is what I'm getting at in terms of order. Which one do we pursue first, the special use or the site plan? 'Cause neither one is good without the other.
You could use something for something, even if you don't have a site plan in front of you.
Number
Well, there
years
is a
ago, we had a
specific carve-out for
situation
that.
exactly
If someone
like-
wants to occupy an existing building for a special land use, there's a carve-out for that that says you don't need a site plan.
Can you say the beginning of what you said again? Because
Yeah.
there was a lot going on.
There's a carve-out for if you are occupying an existing space with no exterior modifications, you don't need a site plan to do that. You can get a special land use approval to use that space without one.
A number of years ago, we had a situation like that where a group took over one of the schools that was not being used to hand out presents during Christmas and stuff. And it created such a crazy situation on the street that all the residents came in, and they had not been to the planning commission. So how they got special use to use the school for that wasn't clear to me at the time. But the planning commission then told him you couldn't use the school for that anymore because of all the input from the residents. Well, you know, that's one of those things that can come up.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I understand that, but just like you said, how did they ever get the special use in the first place? That's the question. Without the microphone, I'm useless, Steph.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we can
In
some modifications.
16.7B, we just say the Bay City Master Plan. Do we want to say the Bay City Master Plan adopted on a certain date, Bay City Master Plan in effect at the time, or just leave it the way it is?
I mean, right now, it sort of implies that that's the plan that's in force, so I would say it's probably, we could always say most recent Bay City Master Plan or something.
We don't need to mess it up if everybody's happy. Just curious.
Well, on that note, the master plan, you know, there's a lot of different elements to it, and it's purposely left kind of broad. It's arguable that some things could be argued for different portions of the plan or different ways depending on how you looked at it. So how do you determine whether it's consistent with you know, it could be consistent with some parts and not the others, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So,
Sure, and it is a case-by-case determination, where you're looking at what's being proposed, and you're considering it against the master plan, and sometimes it might be kind of obvious that it's not consistent with the master plan because of what's being proposed and where, but other times it might be more of an edge case, and sometimes it very clearly will be, and it's really, you just sort of have to take it case by case and say, all right, this feels right based on what the master plan says. And it is a discretionary approval. It's a special land use. So you've got some latitude to say, yeah, we think this is consistent with the master plan.
And it's been used in the past to be able to say that, like a chapter on economic development, that this project does, you know, go towards the goal of economic development. So it's making references like that too.
yeah, I could see a lot of places or examples where it would clearly be consistent with the plan. I think I'd be more of my question would be when it wouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? I mean, because, you know, economic development, that's like almost anything, you know? So, I mean,
Right.
there, you know, when doesn't it, I guess, is more what my thought was than, I mean, you could make an argument for just about anything almost.
Probably, yeah.
Right.
I mean, and again, it's a case, it's down to the case. If you would have to find that it, for some reason, it wasn't consistent.
It would have to be a pretty egregiously.
And 16.7D, I'm a little nervous about the wording here. Who determines what's appropriate?
Well, it's you.
That's you, yeah. That's your, yep.
What section again, Dennis?
16.7D,
That's in your findings of fact, so when you are considering, you know, this special use, because it's been identified as a special use, there's some uses that might not be a good fit for a particular location. So yeah, that is a discussion point under the findings of facts that the Planning Commission has to be able to say that, yes, it does fit that location.
I'm thinking specifically about the marijuana dispensaries.
Yeah, those were all approved not under a special use. We never went with a special use approval. They were all permitted by right in the district. Yep.
Yeah,
So we
There's
will
quite a
still
few
be,
times.
oh,
Oh, no, I just gonna say, there's quite a few times over the years that I've wondered if because there's, in the HTC, there's kind of similar wording of taking in the character of the surrounding area or whatever, what have you. And I always wondered, you know, is there any type of language anywhere that speaks to what you should be considering? I know when we were having some conversations about like form-based code and stuff, that part of the rationale for doing like massing and stuff was to consider the massing of surrounding structures. So, I mean, and I know we don't have that, but I'm just saying, are there things like that that kind of give you an idea of what that could mean? I mean, in an HDC standpoint, it's kind of obvious, but, you know, when we're talking about the whole city and places that, you know, portions that might not have such an obvious character or similar, you know, type of thing, you know, what are we looking at? How do you determine?
when we get into the discussion on the actual districts, within the discussion of each zoning district, there is a list of allowable special uses for those districts. And the intent is that those are the allowed ones that would meet the character of the neighborhood, subject to if we want to change them. But
I was going to say, are we held to that within that? I mean, is there ever, I mean, if it's a special use, is it just?
it's a special use, so it's by right, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
We approve it.
No, it is a discretionary approval. You can say no to a special use within the district where it's listed as a special use if for some reason that use doesn't work in that particular location. That is something that you can do. So.
But is the inverse true? Can you allow something that's not, listed as an acceptable use? I mean,
Generally, no. There will be dealing with uses that aren't explicitly listed in the future discussion, because there are some things that you have to consider. You can never list every single use, but if you're not permitting a use in that district as a special land use, you can't generally approve it in that district.
Not as a special land use, that would have to go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance, a use variance as opposed to a non-use variance.
And the standard for granting a use variance is pretty high. You have to have some sort of hardship or something that's, preventing you from doing something else with the property, generally speaking.
Are we getting close to wrapping up? I hope.
If there's any other questions, I'll answer them, but if not, then I am done.
Make sure that you have Joe's phone number, and you can call him and ask him directly outside of the regular order of business.
sorry, I'm always the problem child. My parents will tell you that. I did have one more, actually not next one. On page 2, the F at the top. The plan shall not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for facilities and services and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Excessive. I mean, is that discretionary as well? I mean, like what excessive means or doesn't?
Yes, just like all the other things, yeah, it really is kind of a judgment call.
We good? Are we good, everybody? Can I say thank you, Joe?
Sure.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. And this is not the
Thank all
last
of you.
we'll see of you, I know, or you of us.
True.
Other items on tonight's agenda, unfinished business. We have none that I'm aware of. New business? Any new business? We've done all the new business. I don't know why my cheat sheet says that, Terry. Any other business on the mind of the board? Items not on the agenda.
Actually, I'm glad I thought of it now because I've been thinking about it for months. Remember when we approved, or maybe we were just informed about it, actually, but a year or two ago, maybe it was longer, my semblance of time is longer, but putting in that grant or whatever to put in a traffic circle by the bridge.
Yeah.
Remember, in that whole corridor with Madison and all that?
Right.
Is that still happening?
Well, that is a dream of the city engineer. She had, presented that as a idea or a concept for it, but she would have to get all the funding, and I think that's still a ways off.
Okay, so I was thinking that was a more concrete thing that was going ahead that already had the funding, so that was just like a
Yeah, no, it's my
hypothetical.
understanding that will take several years yet still.
Okay, I just wondered what the status, 'cause I hadn't heard anything about it in a very long time. Okay.
Yep.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Redo it.
Second.
Support? I have motion and support. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you. I'll go hit the tape.